Hello everybody and welcome to the penultimate round of the Wednesday Sprints Championship here at RCI. I'm Austin Devonshire and joining me in the box on co-coms is Jesse Lee and broadcasting is Benjamin Heilman. I mean, Jesse, Donington Park, I seem to introduce every stream like this. Amazing racetrack, very typically British weather. How are you doing and what's your thoughts for tonight?
Well, I'm doing great because we're up here in the box and it's completely dry. Hello, everybody out there at home. Welcome to a very soggy Donington Park. The drivers, though, Austin, not quite as happy as we are up here with the heating on ever so slightly and out of the rain, but they are trying to deal with these cars in these conditions. It's been very changeable and mixable. In practice, we had 10 minutes of wet running, 10 minutes of dry, and it flip-flopped a couple of times here in qualifying. However, it has gone straight to medium rain. This is the hardest it's rained in quite some time. So now, for a third or fourth time, all of these competitors are dealing with a different condition.
That's just it. And I mean, we've tried qualifying just a little bit on the later side, actually. Joe Dobber currently holds provisional pole. Looking at Ben Rees, actually, at the moment, we're only 2/10 behind Manso, a little bit behind that, too. So everyone kind of bunched up as you'd kind of expect at this point in time, but no dry line, so to speak, of looking from all the camera angles that we're seeing on the track side here. So right now it's a case of just trying to clear some of that water and just try and find the fastest way through.
Yeah, the Donington Park, if you're not familiar with the race circuit, it's not the most modern racetrack in ACC or in indeed the world. And Joe Dauber going around, that was a common. It almost illustrates my point precisely. It is a track that when it goes wrong in a hurry. I think that was Redford in the 95, sliding through the S's there. That was Howling, in fact, that went through.
No, I think that was Redford. That was one of the Estons.
A couple of cars going off rather beside, and that's the nature of this racetrack. Water pools on it, and it is very easy, especially in medium rain, to get the car out from under you. It's horrible in a mixed condition. We saw that the last time, Austin, you and I were on a broadcast here on RCI Donington Park. It was raining then as well. It eventually dried out. But in a mixed condition, it's bad because you're always wanting to be on that drier line. Of course, if you're on the dry tire, you step over that. It becomes a huge problem here, almost no time for recovery. Sort of a similar thing happens with medium or hard rain here, where the track is certainly completely wet, where there is no place to run or hide. And if you overstep just a little bit, a little too much gas, a little bit too much brake, a little bit too much wheel in it, you're going around, as we saw two cars in quick succession just do.
And a couple of other points as well. A couple of these corners, like Redgate, turn one, it's actually quite a late apex as well. It's later than you think it is. So you're carrying more speed than you think that you can carry. Again, that's just how you get the times around here. It's every corner is just that you eke that little bit more out of it, and you see the size of those painted curbs as well, especially on the final corner there, coming out of. Well, it's not the Melbourne Loop, it's Goddard's the final corner. But you see these painted curbs, they're huge, and again, if you dip a tyre onto them, it's a little tiny bit of a wiggle there for Longquest. You're running half a tyre onto those painted curbs. They are quite dangerous, you know, they will cause the tyres to slip, they will cause the wheels to slip, and they will cause the back end to step out understeered through the crane as they're coming through the old hairpin. Again, struggling to keep that front end under control, losing the rear, and then sending them towards the barrier.
Ooh. Yeah, that's going to be an incredibly common thing, as we saw Peter Lundqvist in the 99 trying to come through old hairpin, and it goes incredibly wrong. And we'll see exactly. They didn't hit the curb there. Nope, none of that. You don't have to. I just warned you all that this is a possibility at this racetrack. Ask me how I know. It's so easy to do that. Normally, you got to bang off the curb, run off into the dirt. Not in these conditions. You're going to go off left, right, and center. I've got a couple of drivers in my DMs. I've got my broadcaster all saying the same thing. The weather is getting poorer and poorer. They do not expect any major improvement from times unless the laps have been absolutely bottled. Then potentially you could gain some time back. But this is significant rain, medium rain here that will persist throughout the end of qualifying. I know the drivers are probably hoping that in the interim between qualifying ending and the race starting, that it calms down a little bit and we get more of a mixed start rather than a full-on deluge that we're dealing with. Joe Dauber, quickest of the cars that have set representative times, a 32.192, a quarter of a second thereabout from Ben Reese. Yao Manso third right behind them. A little bit of a gap back to Ted Edwards and Daly. A couple of the Ford drivers, Austin also told me, this car here in the rain, in the dry, that Mustang, an absolute handful with the handling.
Yeah, but that car's a handful anyway at the best of times, isn't it? We've seen the back end kick out like all season long so far. But wanted just to kind of go back, when you said that this is quite an old-fashioned racetrack, it kind of really is. It's pre-war. For a bit of background on Donington Park, it is pre-war, but the track used to go under the bridge. You can see on the left-hand side there, Starkey's Bridge. Again, Keith Whittle just losing it as well.
Same
just
thing.
under deceleration. Just, yeah, the way the car moves forward and the back end just wants to step out. Rear stability is definitely going to be important in the wet weather, but no, one of the things that comes with having an old style racetrack is that it becomes incredibly difficult to overtake. It's quite a narrow track, and obviously cars over time they've gotten wider, and realistically overtaking opportunities, there's maybe only one or two on this circuit, and you really sort of have to commit to it. So again, coming down the credits here, there's only really one line in the dry. This is completely flat and a little bit of a wobble there from Badowski. Yeah, it's this one's going to be interesting. Another car parked onto the outside. I think that might have been one of the Astons. That might have been Mike Redford in the 95.
Yeah, Mike Redford, who we saw go off earlier, has been in our chat to say that, oh, they had a great lap going. They could have been as high as third, and they realized the gravity of that moment, did Redford, knowing that the track was deteriorating in pace and grip, and they were upset about that. Daniel Montiero has asked, how do I know this track's treacherous in the wet? Well, Daniel, if there's a corner here, I've gone off into it and into a barrier somewhere. There's not a wall here I am not familiar with. It's just the nature of the track. It is a very cruel mistress when you get it wrong around here. Like I said, not a very modern layout of a racetrack, and that's a good thing. That sounds negative, but I don't like modern racetracks. I like older, more characterized racetracks, this certainly being one of them. And despite that, though, it is very cruel if you make the slightest mistakes.
I actually did hear, Jesse, that you lost $100 in the barrier just outside of McLean's. So I did hear that rumor. I did hear that rumor. But no, no, you're right. It certainly has its own character as well. It's you know, modern racetracks, they are quite, they're really fun, and sometimes they bring out some amazing races, but sometimes they feel just a little bit sterile. There's something certain about tracks like Donington, like Alton, like Kyalami even, that, you know, some of the older tracks, you know, kind of like the ones kind of designed before, I don't know, the mid-90s. There's something special that brings to the table.
Yeah, and even Kyalami, where we talk about quite a bit. Ooh, huge slide there by the next round racing driver, Nicole Fox. Able to save that and get it back going the correct direction. But nobody out here, by the way, is really thinking that they're going to improve upon their time. What they're doing, Austin, right, is they're practicing just in case. We know the weather is very changeable. We opened the broadcast talking about how strange the weather is acting here today. A lot of the drivers, some of the admin staff and event management staff here have also commented how strange the weather has been, how quickly it's changed. It's gone back and forth. It's flip-flopped a few times. It's going to do that. If the session was long enough, it would have done that here as well. So this is all practice. Nicole's out there just like everybody else, practicing just in case this is something they have to deal with in the race.
Yeah, the biggest problem, at least as a driver that I found with wet weather, is that you don't tend to expect it. At least you kind of hope that it doesn't happen enough that you don't practice it. So, but then, you know, again, at the same time, you know, the practice service that we do have, you know, they will also will have like some kind of changeable weather as well. So, I mean, and it's really going to kind of separate the men from the boys, so to speak.
Well, the fastest lap in qualifying was that 32.192. Joe Dauber just ran a 36 the last time through. That's your pole sitter on the front of the grid. That just shows you how much the track has changed. And Joe's
Oh,
just going to go for one here. That looked almost deliberate a little bit, like they were sending the car off into the barrier anyway. It's Dauber Reese, man, so we don't expect any change there. Nicole Fox, your top qualifier in the silver class. Ollie Mulder, P2 there. Peter Varga is third. And Ben Reese, the Bottle Job Racing 505, going for a huge slide. That was not on purpose. That was more of a fact-finding mission, I think, for Ben Reese there, trying to figure out where the limit of adhesion is. I reckon he found it.
just a little bit, Jesse. But yeah, it is just getting worse. Looking on the track radar, you know, the weather not going to be improving. And again, looking at all of the camera angles, there's no dry line at all, which is kind of strange. You know, so deep into the session, usually you'd see like at least a little bit of a dry line forming as the cars go over the racing line and sort of disperse water. Very wobbly down the straight there from Ben Reese, coming towards the S's, and we saw Redford's Aston kind of lose it here before. A little bit of flick of opposite lock coming onto the exit towards Melbourne Loop, but keeping it in check. And something else I wanted to mention, Jesse, is the likes of some of the championship contenders. You got Podowski and Daly, who are in with a shout, actually, of the overall championship. I mean, 5th place for Daly has some points to make up. Given how hard it is to overtake, it's not the most positive outcome, is it?
No, and this could go even worse for a lot of these drivers. You talk about the tight championship race. We'll bring you the points right after the conclusion of qualifying here. But a lot can go wrong here for a lot of the drivers in both classes. This is a classic trap race near the end of the season. A lot on the line. You've got mixed, changed, unpredictable conditions here today. And all of that could lead you into an issue. You finished 20-somethingth here today, your rival wins the race, then all of a sudden you're either tied on points or you're at a deficit after being up big. We'll show you exactly what we mean here in about 20 or so seconds. Everybody getting their final lap in. Again, not really trying to improve upon their time. They're just trying to get their eye in just a little bit to figure out what the cars handle like in these conditions. It went from a sort of a light rain in practice to dry to light rain to dry. So this is a different condition that they're unfamiliar with. Just trying to get a handle of it. Jordan Daly here going for a slide here into 2 and 3 on the way to Old Hairpin, gets a little sideways there, and just gone.
Lost it. Yeah, so much torque in that Mustang, you know, and again, we've talked about the electronics in it, in that, you know, the traction control kicks in late but comes down hard, and yeah, it really allowing it allows quite a lot of slipping in the wet, you know, with so much power under your right foot. Just what happens.
Qualifying concluded, and the pole winners in both classes are your championship leaders. Joe Dauber has the quickest first and third sector, that 32.192, good enough to get it done on the first lap, as we have been told and certainly expected based on the conditions. Reese, Manso, and Edwards, the top 4. Daly, Badowski, Redford, Dalton, Fox, and Huell, the top 10. Nicole Fox, the quickest in the silver class. Mulder and Varga, the top 3. And then the huge contingent of silver drivers, Varga, Teixeira, Foster, Howling, Carlisle, all of those that have put on such good racing all season long. Ben Reese, though, Austin, quickest in Sector 2.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, Reese is always pretty quick, you know, throughout the season. Never really been too much of a danger, but, you know, coming in second place in quali, that's a pretty big deal. But coming on to the standings now, for the pro class. So in first place, we've got Joe Dauber with 373 points. Just trailing that, though, is Marco Badowski in second place with 367. Raphael Huell in P3 with 314. Jordan Daly was P3, knocked down to P4 with 255. Nico Quizma is P5. Nico Quizma is P5. P6 is just John Dalton. P7, Tom Shipston. 8th is Ted Edwards. 9th, Grim Lilith. And 10th is Richard Whittle.
Close championship points there.
Indeed, it is. 11th place, Ben Reese. 11th place, Mike Redford with 149 points. Jam Ansor in P13. P14 is Matt Malcolm with 86, and anyone with a dash next to their name has signed out.
Once again, we'd like to apologize to Ben Reese. He hails from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and apparently we do not have a graphic of that particular flag, so we're going to work on that in between championships.
Another really close fight, also for silver as well, Jesse. Nicole Fox leads the championship with 396 points, followed by Ollie Mulder in P2 with 360, Peter Varga P3 with 308, Brenna Texera in P4 with 291, closely followed by Jake Howling in P5 with 265 points. 6th place is Martin Foster, 7th is Peter Lundquist, 8th is Adam Carlisle, 9th Trevor Byford, and 10th Keith Whittle. Ibiza Racer will take P11 and Daniel Bouchard in P12, and anyone with a dash next to the name, just like before, has signed out.
Well, you may be looking at those standings, Austin, and some folks at home may be looking at them, and they may think, well, Nicole Fox pretty much has this wrapped up, right? They've got just about a majority of a race gap. And that is normally what you'd be thinking at this point, but Nicole Fox is not thinking that, mostly because of today. I mentioned before, this is a classic trap race here at Donington in mixed, changeable conditions. Everybody we saw in qualifying slip sliding around. That fate could just as easily befall you as somebody else. Who knows? Turn one could be a mess, and all of a sudden you're having to come from the back. We saw Fox have to do a recovery drive earlier in this championship as well. Could this be a day that they bolster and lock up a championship? Could this be the day where it gets closer? You just don't know. Nobody knows. The most important thing, the most obvious thing, getting a clean getaway. Austin, how hard is that going to be, though, today?
Oh, incredibly. I mean, the track's still damp. It's not raining as of current, but no, the conditions being what they are, especially now that we've seen cars struggle when it's just them in clear air. Now you've got cars around you to have to deal with as well. But not only that, we've seen this time and time again, and we said this from race one that with the format that we have with two races, one race tends to be quite aggressive and quite aggro, and the second tends to be quite calm. So again, finding your place in that and finding a way around to kind of just sort of maximize your points safely, you kind of have to just sort of just focus that aggression as best you can. And in these conditions around this track, not easy.
Just reading the chat as we go down the beautiful grid here on the penultimate weekend here of the Wednesday GT3 Sprint Championship. We're glad all of you are with us today, and you're very active in chat. We love to see that, of course. Miguel Martins has said so many Mustangs, and Redford explaining that it's the right-hander at the top of the hill, missed the apex completely and buggered up their lap. Matthew Malcolm said that they are dead last. Are they? Are they dead last? Yeah, man. So says that this was the luckiest qualifying that there's ever been. Miguel cheering on their friend and teammate. And it's that kind of day, you strap into that race car on a day like today, and you're going to be in for a fight. Are you fighting the racetrack more than the other cars? Almost certainly today. And there's an old saying I like to bring up. This track's wetter than some showers I've been in.
I mean, I can't tell if that's just a dig at the typical British weather thing, or if this has been deliberately planned.
Bad water pressure is incredibly common in America, and it's a problem. So yeah, sometimes you get feels like you're getting coughed on rather than rained on.
I can kind of relate to that. I'm on the top floor of a tower apartment for student accommodation, and no. Bad water pressure is definitely a thing. It's definitely a concern, and not sure if it's just me, or if the back end of the track here looks slightly drier than the front, or if it's dried out in that in this period of time. It does look Helman, Stewie, and our ears noticing that the sun has come out, and the sky definitely looking a lot bluer, which will might actually dry a fair bit of this out before the race actually starts. You have this little bit of a changeover period.
That is good and bad that the sun is out. You kind of get more optimistic, but it also throws an additional wrench into your plans because okay, if we're going to have a sunny period here, how long is it going to be? And what's that going to do to my setup? What's that going to do to my tires? Where should I set my tire pressure? Should I set my tire pressures right for right now? Or should I try to guess what they're going to need to be 5, 10 laps from now? This isn't the biggest track in the world. You will do quite a number of laps. Apologies and correction. Miguel Martin's not teammates with Zhao. They are countrymen, not teammates. So apologize for that error, but still the same. Cheering on. You know what's weird? As an American, Austin, I
Go on.
cheer for a lot more British drivers than American drivers. What does that say about me?
I have no idea. I would quite an interesting observation actually. If our broadcasters, Joey, if you can go to Lundqvist again, that yellow Aston that we've seen, it looks like Lundqvist is actually running on the dry tires. And again, this is gonna be interesting if we yeah, it's the Lamborghini. There we go. We see it there. So you look on the side of the tires, you see that Pirelli P0 kind of colouring, the yellow writing on the side. That indicates that it's a dry tyre. But if you look at the tyres of the Mustang here, of the 157, you see there's no yellow writing. So with the track conditions being what they are, they look wet, but they're just damp and set to dry out. Is the dry tyre going to be the right call? It's hard to say.
Interesting. Matthew Malcolm says they're going to make a gamble and it might be big brain. So I wonder if Matthew Malcolm is also on a dry tire. I wouldn't have expected to see that here. You are going to suffer incredibly in at least the opening couple of laps here. This track is certainly still too wet for a dry tire. If you are out there on it like Lundqvist is, like some other cars may be, you're hoping that this dries out here on the formation lap, and I don't know if it will. This is so wet. Several other cars being told now that they are out there on dries, so this is going to be, at minimum, a lap or two, Austin, that is going to be completely miserable, and you just hope that the drivers that are on the wet Pirelli tire know that the others are on dries, but there's no real way to tell that unless they've communicated that personally. This is going to be hectic.
Yep, I see this being the crazy race, but don't count me on that.
Oh, that's right. We've got 2 races today.
Yes.
Oh, dear.
I mean, is this going to be a double whammy of this? Potentially, 30 minutes time, we are looking we are looking at wet weather again in half an hour, but of course the sprint race lasting only half an hour, so it looks like it might get progressively drier as this session goes on. Very typical British summertime weather right now with these summertime showers.
Being told by our eagle-eyed producer that Fox, Boulder, and Lundqvist are all on dries. There is the possibility that it will go back wet before the end of the race, so we could have slip sliding here by the drivers and teams on the dry tire right now. We could have slip sliding again at the end of the race as well. How big of a benefit will it be? I don't know. I usually get nervous up here in the booth for the drivers, but I am super nervous for them now. This is going to be a almost unprecedented situation. The sun is out. The track is completely saturated. You've got a mix of cars and manufacturers on different tires. The setups, it's been like throwing darts at a dartboard. What is the setup? What kind of notebook would you even have for a condition like this? This is going to be hectic. Everybody strap in.
Coming around the final corner now, coming around Goddard's, and I think I'd be a bit of a Ferrari fan there in the stands, but coming around Goddard's now, waiting for the green light for the run down towards Redgate. Very hard braking zone, going from, I believe it's like 5th down to 3rd gear. But you are hitting the brakes as soon as you hit that exit. There's the green light. Dauber getting away. Ben Rees actually squeezing up alongside so far. The 2 Mustangs following short behind. I think it's Ted Edwards down there. It's being squeezed out to the outside actually is Ted, and losing that position. And yeah, Dauber keeping the lead and Rees keeping a gap in 2nd place.
Oh, a car right there, the white car. forcing another vehicle off of the racetrack. Nicole Fox involved. The purple car rejoining with no further incident, and everybody's going to be able to slow down in time for the old hairpin. You know, pretty good. I think that's Mike Redford off after old hairpin, heading up to McLean's, and they're going to be able to get back on without any incident. Afforded a nice amount of space to accomplish that task as more racing here in the mid-pack continues. They race up the hill for the first time. I will say, I'm going to shortly jinx it by saying it before we get to the S's, that was actually pretty good.
Yeah, all things considered, I was expecting a whole lot more. Nicole Fox definitely got pushed wide a little bit there. Had to take
crash in the back.
On the exit of Coppice there. What has happened?
Whittle's in it. Teixeira's in it.
What else would that be? I'm looking at the track map, number 44. Foster was also collected in that run on the outside of Coppice, and that will also set them back just a little bit in this race. But all of it, as you say, that was a relatively clean lap. Nicole Fox forced down into a fight with the Team Monkey Racing Mustang. But that will be Peter Varga, I believe, and actually taking and pulling that position onto Nicole. No, it's Nico Quizma, sorry. I made that mistake. But no, Nico Quizma will be pulling ahead a little bit. No, it's Peter Varga, sorry. That is Peter Varga.
I was going to say, you're right on both accounts. It was both of them. It was Quizma and Peter Varga there. Ollie Mulder has taken the lead in the silver class. Meanwhile, this is what happened coming down to the straight. A couple of cars into each other, and Howling involved there, and Teixeira sitting in the pit lane. They've teleported to pit lane, either that or they have been sitting there. They have not rejoined at this juncture. Dauber leads Reese and Manso. Daly up to fourth. Ted Edwards down to fifth. That's your top five. Ollie Mulder leading it in silver over Varga and Fox.
Yeah, we said that this could be a fight for Nicole. You know, you said this might be clear cut, but in just a few turns, demoted down from pole to P3 in class, and that is this kind of race that you want to try to avoid. It's still a good haul of points coming on the podium, but when the championship fight is so close, it's not what you're after. John Dalton and the nearly on pace car fending off Mike Redford. Mike Redford actually, you know, they said in chat themselves, you know, we're on track for potentially a top 3 before losing it in the conditions that they were in. And, I mean, those conditions haven't really gotten much better. A dry line starting to form now. You can start to see that from the trackside cameras. Bruno Teixeira currently running in P23 overall. That that incident definitely setting them back. I'm not sure. Have they pit at some point, Jesse?
Yeah, they were sitting in pit lane. They're a lap down or so on the field, and I'm unsure if they were involved in an incident or what happened, but they definitely teleported to pit lane. They didn't drive there. And when that happens, your controls are locked for a period of time. And I was worried that maybe, you know, my internal clock goes off whenever somebody's sitting in pit lane for a long time. And I was worried that maybe they were just retiring the car, but that's not the case. Teixeira out on the racetrack and turning laps. And that's important because you never know, even if they're a lap down, which they are in that 720 McLaren, you just don't know if another accident happens, several cars get collected, they got to pit for repairs. Maybe you're on the wrong tire at some point in this race, and it could all go wrong. It's gone wrong for Zhao. We'll see what's happened to the 222 Mustang, and that hasn't happened yet.
Oh, it's the painted curb on the outside. Thanks to the
just went
curb,
wide.
runs wide, and yeah, overall, not too bad. It could have been worse, especially, you know, again, given what we've seen from other cars as well. Definitely kept it a straight line, which is always preferable. The nightmare scenario be coming around Coppice and being sent backwards across the track, you know, across the live racetrack with other cars coming towards you. It's seen it happen in real life, but it's not fun.
Well, Joe Dauber, Ben Reese, and now Jordan Daly, your top 3. Daly, the quickest car on the racetrack, at least until Nico Quizma just came across the line this time to reset fast lap. Quizma in 12th place and fighting Richard Whittle, but still the quickest car on the racetrack. Daly's going to be absolutely thrilled about that. Talk about a driver that wasn't particularly excited at the prospect of running in these mixed conditions. They've somehow found themselves up a couple of spots here after the early melee. A couple of cars they were racing. Of course, Ted Edwards, a good friend, and Zhao, we just saw the off there. That is a handling quirk of that Mustang, I've been told, is the dreaded understeer. Even in a wet condition, it will just spear off into the distance if you've not got the right amount of throttle and brake input, and that can be a problem. Redford running wide there as well, but no harm, no foul, and it might actually have helped him a little bit, having a little bit of a gap going into the S's. I always felt like driving up the back of somebody into the S's there is a bad idea, because if they make a mistake, you can't capitalize on it because you're too close, you're going to run into them. Give them a little bit of space, let them make a mistake, and either go under them or over them to make the pass. Badowski there working to make a pass of their own. Ted Edwards back up to P3.
Yeah, I mean, Ted started a little bit further back, didn't they? They started at P4, so actually it's one position, but again, it's so hard to overtake around here, and as you've just said there, handling quirks of this Mustang making things very, very interesting. A few cars have actually come into the pits. I think you might have mentioned, Jesse, I'm sorry if I'm re-mentioning it, but Nicole Fox, I saw Malcolm come to the pits as well, and presumably due to the fact that they're maybe on the wrong tyres for the conditions, and 10 minutes time expected to see more rain, and in half an hour, and that's only set to get heavier in half an hour as well, so it's wet now and starting to dry out. It's about to throw another curveball for the final stages of this first sprint race.
It was really nice that we had British weather for a British race. This is exactly what the British experiences like car off the racetrack there. Everybody able to cycle through without any major incident there. Nicole Fox, as you have pointed out, has been down the pit lane. They've taken the dry tires off of the next round racing car. They've put wets on it, but not good for your championship leader, as Fox is now in 21st place. Keep in mind, you're not required to make a pit stop in the sprint. It's 2 30-minute races in this series. There's no pit stop required. They gambled on wet tires, so did some of the cars, and it has not worked out. And by my rudimentary math, that is going to pretty much knot up this championship if the results hold. If Fox does not make headway in that silver class, this is going to be darn close after race number 1 here today.
That's just, I mean, they do have that championship lead, but how long is that going to last? Been sent so far down the order. Nico Quizman looking at making a move on Whittle here, and diving onto the inside to try to find a way
looking to the inside, looking to the outside, just be where they're not.
That's the cheer, but again, Whittle just holding on. And this is the thing about Donington, it's such a narrow racetrack that to defend, all you have to do is just kind of place your car vaguely in the way, and it kind of it kind of means that they can't really the car can't really overtake in the more traditional way. You have to kind of be a little bit crafty about it. You can't just you have to really commit to an overtake around here. You have to kind of sneak up on them a little bit, and you do that just by getting a better exit and waiting and forcing a mistake, kind of like what Nico's done here.
Oh, he just about got it stopped and made the pass. Nico Koizma for Triwall Sim Racing has done it, and it's a brilliant pass. It looked late and it looked deep, but it was neither. It was a perfectly timed and placed pass, well raised by both Whittle and Koizma there. Matthew Malcolm in chat chiming in and agreeing the dry tire was not the play. They were hoping that the sun would stay out longer, that potentially the track would dry up quicker. It hasn't dried up. There is a run in line now, which is something Austin pointed out was strange to not see with so many cars on track earlier in qualifying. That's very much true. But now from the overhead view from the helicopter, you can very clearly see a run in line on the racetrack. It's not dry by any means, but it's certainly more grippy than anything that they've dealt with to this point.
That's just it. That's Peter Lundqvist facing the wrong way. I believe that's
on
over
the inside of the racetrack too.
That's over at Coppice. Yeah, coming into Coppice here, and inside curb to settle the car. No, just a little bit of understeer. It turns to snap oversteer as they go over the grass, and just sends. It's so easy to do that around here. We've seen it in quali. We're seeing it in the race now as well, and it's such an easy track to make a mistake on. It's quite a technical track at Donington.
It really is, and when you're following somebody, you're dealing with the spray, and maybe your brake marker has been moved, because certainly everybody's brake marker has been moved because you don't really practice for these kind of conditions a lot. It's hard to replicate to begin with to do it in the first place. So you're kind of guessing until you get that muscle memory down. So all of these things changing, these drivers are doing a really good job of managing all of this. And oh, by the way, there's a race on. So they're actually trying to race each other and make passes and outsmart each other. I want to talk about John Dalton for a second, racing for nearly on pace. Oh, as something's happened to one of the Whistles. Is this too much speed and out of control? I think it may be. Mustang understeering and
Oh, painted curb.
saved it. You know what? Keith Whittle saved it there. We've seen worse fates exiting Old Hairpin today. But going back to John Dalton, you talk about a driver that was sort of semi-retired and hadn't really competed. He does a lot of commentary. He's damn good at it too, and hadn't really raced a whole lot in the past year. And he gets back into this series, goes, it's just a laugh. We'll see how we're doing. He's in the top 10 in the pro field every week.
Yeah, that's consistency, and that's, it is possible. We've seen it before, where you can fight for a championship whilst not having, like, amazing results. If you're consistent, staying, in a good amount of points, you can be quite unsuspecting in that case. Like, quite an unsuspecting championship contender, just by pure consistency. So, yeah, you can't argue with that.
No, I mean, I couldn't do that. I couldn't walk. Well, I didn't really walk away. It was just, life gets in the way. You get busy, and it's completely understandable. But to jump back in the car and immediately be top 10 pace, to immediately just sort of get back into it, and especially in the Porsche of all things, not the easiest car. I would definitely say driving the Porsche is an expert level car. It's not set and forget. It's really impressive what he's been able to do. And now, of course, trying to get by Zhao for 7th place currently. Dauber, Reese, Edwards, the top 3. Daly, Badowski, the top 5. We ride on board the Team Monkey Racing number 45 Ferrari. I was told, little birdie told me that they expected the Ferraris to be lights out quick here today. Joe Dauber has put 3.5 seconds on Ben Reese. So certainly the case. Actually, I was told both the Ferrari and the Aston were likely to be good here. They typically are, both of those cars. And what I am surprised about is how decent the Fords have been. We've got, what, 4? Yeah, we've got 4 of them inside the top 10. I expected them to be a little bit worse in these conditions than they actually are running.
Yeah, yeah. Given its handling characteristics, yeah, I have to agree, Jesse. Running in top 3 and 4, Edwards and Daly in that Mustang. But again, one thing that I'm noticing as well, on the note of like what cars are strong around here and strong in these conditions, that the Ferrari just seems like a jack of all trades. It just feels like the Ferrari's good, just kind of everywhere. It doesn't really have too much of a weakness other than its inherent kind of understeer. That if you've ever driven it, you can't. It's kind of like one of its traits it's kind of known for being maybe a little bit safe. Quite an easy car to pick up and go, but a really difficult car to get the most out of. But another car that's going really well around here in the wet is the Aston. I mean, big soft GT car on the road, but in GT3 format, it seems to be a few of those characteristics have carried over.
Yeah, Aston has always been good here in one of its home races, and in particular, all of the British pack racetracks in general, which you would expect. But it's one of those cars that I think gets dragged a little bit by some of the other racetracks where it's just sort of mid. Here, though, it's actually really good. It's actually one of the first cars here that I got on with. I tried to drive a Lamborghini around here for a very long time back when that was not really a smart option. I'm not known for the best decision making, so went to the Aston, and yeah, all of a sudden you pick up a 1.5 seconds. You're like, well, it's pretty good. But it also sort of helps you keep from hurting yourself in a race setting. It's you can lean on it a little bit more as opposed to some of the other cars. The Ferrari can be a bit tricky, but it's just fast. It is that 296 and showing it out there today. And this is exactly what Joe needed. You're talking about a championship leader. We've already seen one have a mistake thus far, Nicole Fox in silver. Joe Dauber does not want to have that befall them. All they need to do for this second half of this one, hold on to that 3.5-second lead. They don't need to do anything special. They don't need to get cute with it. They just need to survive. Nico Koizma, by the way, still on the warpath. It's going to be near contact there. Tom Shipston trying to get the most out of the corner in that BMW. Nearly loops it around, nearly winds up into the lap of Nico Koizma, and somehow they all live to tell the tale. Richard Whittle and Ollie Mulder now into the fray. Ollie's the leader in silver, and Austin, to their benefit, they've got a 6-second lead on Peter Varga. So despite the fact that they're coming up on this traffic, they likely won't suffer too much from it, and even if they do, they're in no immediate danger.
That's it, and a bit of a race replay going on here. Martin Foster coming down into the ass. It's a bit of a wiggle, manages to keep it on the grey stuff. The McLaren's in front just sort of...
You just let him go?
Yeah, it looked like a lift there. So, again, Stewie in our ears had to confirm it looked like Byford was lifting through that, which almost caused a bit of a collision there. If you don't expect it, you know, it's that you don't have a whole lot of time to react to it. So, Ron Dalton chasing down Yamamoto as well, coming through Coppice, and the rain's starting to pick up. You can see that the rain lights have come back on. The rain is falling again. The wipers are back on. So we've gone from that dry, sunny start to the water coming down again. And I don't think it's going to threaten the dry line, at least not in the closing stages of this race. But we're only about halfway through, and I mean the dry tyres were definitely not the call, were they?
They certainly weren't. And to that effect, Peter Lundqvist and Matthew Malcolm, who both took dry tires, have come into the pit lane now. They have changed over to the treaded Pirelli tires, and they have rejoined the fray, albeit near the back of the pack now. Miguel Martins says that, I'm glad I wasn't in this race. I would have tried the dries too. I like the gamble. I'm just going to say it, Austin. I like the gamble. I like a race car driver who is willing to do something contrarian, something that nobody else is doing in the event that it may happen. And if you win that way, some people are like, oh, you won on a gimmick. But that's the most fun. It's the most fun whenever you're the one that gets the strategy right. You're the smart one, and it all comes to you. Those are the wins that you remember the most.
Yeah, part of this is all strategy. Strategy and to a degree setup as well. Henry's taking that fastest lap of the race.
That's not what Joe wanted.
That's not what Joe wanted at all, no. But no, it really does come down to how far you can adapt the setup as well. And speaking of setups, Jesse,
are you kidding me?
There's somewhere we can get those from, and I believe that they're on screen at the moment. Yes, they are. Our partners, Go Setups. Huge thank you to those guys, because they do wet and dry setups, professional setups, to get a little bit more speed out of your driving. And I mean, if you've got setups, you really need gear to kind of reuse them with. And again, oh, would you look at that on screen again? The Fanatec, you know, they make wheels, they make bases, they make pedals. You've heard of them. Affiliate code in the description. As always, go check them out. And well, you need to mount that onto something. And so Digital Motorsports, they have an online sim rig builder, and they will they have the sim rig builder, and you know, you can plan what you want to put that Fanatec gear onto, and then say you want a little bit more. There's digitalmotorsports.com on screen there. Yet again, I'm so good at timing these, look. And then say you want to eke a little bit more speed out. I mean, Driver 61, they do driver coaching. We've got a discount link in the description. Go check them out. And of course, AK Esports, they help a lot of the server things, a lot of the back end here at RCI. And well, yeah, huge thank you to all the partners that make all of this possible. So I mean, Jesse, you know me, I'm looking for an opportunity to shill. I'll take it.
I just can't believe it. I thought we were having a conversation, and then you go into a partner read. That I'm not mad. I'm just sort of impressed, I guess, a little bit. I didn't expect that. That caught me off guard. But thank you, of course, to all of our partners that help make these broadcasts possible. I think a lot of the drivers in today's field were likely trying out Go setups, or potentially would like to have had a Go setup. It's gone wrong for Jake Howling. And we're exiting the old hairpin section here. Let's see. Is it too much curb? Yep, it sure is. Driving over the back of it. Very saturated now with the medium rain coming down. A spin, and I assume, yep, trying to get back onto the track. 2 in the grass, 2 on the tarmac, and you're going to go around again.
And I mean, you were on 20 minutes of these kinds of conditions now, but it's the start. It's the stage of the race where the times are going to start dropping off, and the challenge comes in. And again, one thing I've noticed as well, Jesse, is that usually at this stage of the race, you know, usually there's like a very clear sort of very clear path of someone pulling away. That's Ted Edwards. Ted Edwards from P3 has dropped down the order. I believe that's the old hairpin.
Oh, I think that was contact with another car there.
Oh, that's never what you want to...
Nope, there wasn't contact with another car. Oh, he's all by himself. He didn't even make it to Old Hairpin. He was on the run down to Old Hairpin, and the car got loose, and he looped it off into the dirt, and there was a car off in front. And yeah, okay, so that was just the... I think that's the RPMS car of Zhao that got off by themselves. I worried that there may have been contact. That was not the case. 2 separate incidents.
Edwards moving down to P8, I believe that will be. Yes, it's Redford behind them. Actually looking at putting some pressure on. But yeah, Mustang doing Mustang things, especially in the wet. Losing it down the kind of curve.
Oh, again!
It's a lick of oversteer from Chipstead, allowing more to support alongside this. You know, these interclass battles are always a lot of fun. You know, there's a certain amount of respect you kind of have to give. You know, these guys aren't racing for points. They're not in the same class of car, but that's not great for Shipstead because that means that there's yet a bigger gap between themselves and the cars ahead for position. And starting to get a little bit hairy out there. Badowski chasing down Daly. Daly being moved up to P3. You've got the planes flying overhead, of course. East Midlands Airport, just on the opposite side of the racetrack towards Coppice.
Yeah. Which is modeled in the sim for some reason. It's actually over there.
It is. In fact, I do believe, in fact, that because of a lot of the kerosene, you know, that kind of evaporates and condenses and falls from the planes, yep, the inside of Coppice can actually be quite slippery on some days. Again, it's just the flight path. It's just directly over the racetrack, and it's Coppice especially that gets quite slippery. But yes, Badowski chasing down Daly moving up into P3. And another thing I was going to say is that usually you've got, you know, kind of cars clearly pulling ahead.
Oh, Bruno Teixeira.
Once again, I'm interrupted by some kind of crazy happening. It's exit curb of the old hairpin. Yeah, we've seen it. You know, we saw it in qualifying. We saw it in qualifying. I'm so sorry, I shouldn't laugh, but yes, no.
We're not laughing at Bruno. You're laughing at me because I'm being silly.
I am. It's fine. It's fine. We get on so well. But no, Ben Rees only 4.2 seconds behind Dauber, and that kind of, you know, as I'll try a third time. Usually you see cars pull up a bit of a lead, and usually by this point in the race, you know, the final closing minutes, you know, usually you're used to seeing quite a large gap, but gap of only 4 seconds? I mean, that's going to keep Dauber honest, right? If Dauber makes a mistake or kind of goes off the track or misses a braking spot or turns in and the car just doesn't do what he wants it to do, I mean, that's handing this potential win over to Rees, and Daly's not that far behind either.
No, Daly and Badowski were going at it, but that's cooled off a little bit. They've got at least a second gap between the two of them. Something happened to Mike Redford here, I worry. This is the view inside the helmet of Mike Redford as we head down to Old Hairpin here. It's been Calamity Corner as it usually is. He's a little bit to the inside. He's going to gas it up here, and oh, a little bit of a wiggle. Not a whole lot else going on there, but that shows you the limited visibility in this medium rain following another car. Mike Redford is, that's Ted Edwards right in front of them. Not that you would really be able to tell that from that camera view because of all the spray, but that's the conditions they're in. This is very treacherous. And Austin, to your point, Joe's only 3.6 seconds ahead now. One little mistake by Joe Dauber, Ben Rees is going to be there. And from then it will be on Adam Carlisle just going wide, and they'll be able to rejoin without any further incidents. A very smart tactic there. You can try and turn that car to the right and make it through that corner and potentially wipe yourself out, or you can just brake the car in a straight line, go off the track, let the gravel slow you down, and then rejoin when you're slow enough. And sometimes the better of the two options. Update from Matthew Malcolm saying that they actually disconnected, and that's why they are 6 laps down currently and sitting in the pit lane. They had disconnected from the race. They reconnected, but have not taken further part in the races. Oh my goodness, Badowski nearly losing it. John Dalton, where did he come from? Nearly on pace. He's nearly on the podium now. P4 for Johnny D.
Yeah, I mean, only a few laps ago we're praising him for being within the top 10 consistently throughout this championship. You got moves like that. Ted Edwards going sideways, same corner as before. That number 8 Mustang seeming to struggle on the braking zone towards the old hairpin, on the exit of the trainers even. Badowski looking at the rear of that number 5 Porsche and coming out of nowhere with that, and only 1.5 seconds off of Daly. Ben Rees pulling up the gap towards Dover as well, dropping the gap to 3.8 seconds. So realistically, only 2, maybe 3 laps left, but still certain drivers within gaps of each other that do mean that we could be on for a good few fights in the final stages of this race.
Yep, very scary for everybody here, as this is the worst the track's been in the race thus far. And again, this is a different condition than what they will have been running on. That changes your muscle memory. The visibility's quite poor. All these cars are still together racing each other. Daly, Dalton, Badowski, and Huell are all together in a line, and that is a problem for, well, everybody that's not Jordan Daly. Quite frankly, Jordan Daly's got a clear view in front of them, but nobody else does. And when you're hunting an apex, and I think I just saw a white car in the background go off the racetrack ever so slightly, and it might have been João Manso's RPMS car, and it was. I thought I may have been getting a little bit senile, but no, that wasn't even the white car I was looking at. The white car was in front of João Manso that went off the track in a very strange spot, but João also sliding the car. It was Raphael Huell in the Ford Performance 21 that I saw hit the dirt there for a brief moment, and that kind of highlights how difficult it is. A slide right there as well. Man, these cars are not taking to this condition very well, and why would they? This is horrible. Oh, the leader in silver's off.
What happened here? It's got the replay here, and again, it looks like they just flipped that exit curb, and if it's remember, we're talking about just how stable the Aston seems to be in these conditions, but not sure even they aren't infallible, and that will drop Ollie down the field. But where to? I mean, they're locked in the championship fight with Nicole Fox. Nicole Fox got sent to the back fairly early with that pit stop. 2 laps down. That one spin isn't going to change all that much. According to the timesheet, we have to wait for it to update to see where in the silver field Ollie is, but I can imagine they didn't lose too much time. Lucky they did have a bit of a gap. They've lost the position of Chipston, but we saw the overtake in the final 2 corners a few laps ago, but all things considered, could have been a lot worse with 1 minute and 20 left on the clock.
Final minute or so, probably the most dangerous part of the race, the medium rain. They should be getting somewhat used to it, but if the car is not set up to handle this, then it's not going to go very well at all. Mike Redford, the Mike Racing 95, looking for an opportunity to get by João for P7. It's Aston versus Mustang here in the closing moments. These two quite close indeed. John Dalton on the back of Daly for P3 as well. Dahmer has held the lead from Rees. It's now up to 5 seconds, as that is about as good as it gets, as it's plain sailing, quite literally almost, out there for Dahmer now. Just need not make a major mistake. Back it up a little bit, if anything. Dalton here in the number 5, nearly on pace Porsche, trying to figure out a way to get by the 197 of Daly. Badowski third in line, and in my favorite position, Austin, because if something goes wrong between these two, he gets 2 free positions.
Give it a final push.
Yeah. This is getting actually quite interesting, just simply because with this kind of pace, we will be getting another lap here, and that's a lap to make a move. And we were talking about Dalton, coming back in after taking a break and all of a sudden fighting, who was actually one of the championship leaders for a fair while throughout this championship for the podium. Similar story with Raphael Kuhl, actually, with Raphael being P3 of the championship so far. Again, never really set the world on fire with any kind of drives, but sitting in the top 3 in points overall goes to show just how consistent Raphael is too. So, huge fight in the championship between Dalton and Raphael.
Oh, Dalton!
Needing all the points to separate them and kind of coming in from, and chances starting to slip away.
Time growing short here as the last lap of the race continues. The leader, Joe Dauber, is coming through the S's now down to the Melbourne hairpin for the final time here at race 1. Folks, don't go anywhere. We have another race for you immediately following this one, another 30-minute race. What will the weather be? We really don't have a clue, but if it's anything like this race, it's going to be an absolute corker.
Yeah. The drivers here. I mean, Dauber winning race number 1 and actually closer than what we've actually seen before. Ben Rees coming in P2 in the 505 Aston. Daly coming around the final corner to take P3. Dalton immediate P4. Badowski P5. Mike Redford actually taking a look on the inside of Manzo to try and take a position for number 7, but Raphael will take P6. Manzo P7, Redford P8, Quizma P9, and Edwards rounding out the top 10. So, yeah, the first race kind of had a little bit of everything, but big talking point has been really the strategy and getting that, some of the cars getting that wrong.
Joe Dauber continues his great work and widens his championship lead a little bit. Ollie Mulder gets some points back with Peter Varga in the silver class after Nicole Fox started the race on the dry tire. That was not the play here today. A gamble for certain. They did recover, did Nicole, some points, but not a whole lot. That has tightened up the race for the silver championship. It's widened in pro. Badowski down in 5th place. That's good news for Joe Dauber.
That's great news. That's exactly kind of what you want. You just want to kind of extend that gap, especially with Dalton and Badowski coming so far, kind of behind in terms of standings, not even on the podium. Actually, no, Daly P3, but, has lost a few points by, in the last couple of rounds. But, yeah, it's as good news as it gets for Dauber as we wait for race 2 to start. Looking at the chat, is that Dan Van Dolphin, Brain and Dalton people, are you dreaming? No, you were not. Manzo with God, this car feels horrible. I'm fairly certain a lot of people would agree, and Dauber saying 27.8 psi by the engine, not ideal. And a link to Ted Edwards as well. Ted Edwards saying that they lost all pressure as well. So it looks like these tires not liking it around here.
We've definitely received several messages indicating that everybody's tire pressures were way too low in that condition. I had wondered and suspected something like that was going to happen. It is impossible. It's like trying to hit a moving target going Mach 5 with a BB gun. Is sort of what this is like in these conditions. You can either set it to where it's right now or guess where it's going to be later, but there is no guarantee that it's ever going to be optimum. Suboptimal, as Formula One engineers would put it. And today, that was certainly the case here in race number 1. Race number 2 coming right at you after a brief intermission. We're not going anywhere. Austin Devonshire and Jesse Lee with you, with Stewie here. Just want to say hello and thank all of you for being with us here on a Wednesday evening. We thank you so much for spending a little bit of your evening with us. We only ask that you like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, so you don't miss any upcoming races. Of course, we've got a plethora of them. Night Owl starts this weekend. Still time to get involved with RCI's longest running championship series. Night Owl Season 18 starts at Red Bull Ring this Saturday night. And if all things go to plan, it will be myself and Ryan Mawson in the booth with you for the entirety of that championship series. Of course, pending any last-minute changes. Mini British GT Season 2 is open. That championship starts in about 2 weeks from now, the 24th of June. It's Mini British GT. It is got pretty much all the British tracks you could want, and one trip to the Nordschleife in the middle as well. I believe you can pick any car that you want. The theme is British racetracks, however, with the Nordschleife in there as well. So British GT and the new Friday GT2 season, that also starting. That starts this Friday. I do not believe we will have a broadcast for that one, unfortunately, but it is the Friday GT2 Championship, as you have known it on Fridays for the past several seasons. That all coming at you this week. And again, in a couple of weeks, a brand new series for us here at RCI, the Wheelie Slow Sunday Grand Prix. ACC racing on a Sunday, 2-hour races, and a star-studded calendar. They're going to Monza, Silverstone, Paul Ricard, Spa, the Nürburgring GP, and Suzuka. 2-hour races, a little bit longer, a little bit more interesting Sunday evening for everybody that wants to drive that. That's a sponsored series by Wheelie Slow. Kevin Boss donating around 50 USD, 50 euro, whatever, to the channel over the past several months, earned the ability to potentially sponsor a series, and he has done a Sunday series, the Wheelie Slow Grand Prix. Austin, a lot going on in the summer here at RCI.
Yeah, usually it's a time where we take a little bit of a break, but we're keeping our foot on the gas pedal all throughout the summer. But I have a problem with something you just said, Jess. You said it's a star-studded calendar. Then the third track you listed was Paul Ricard. So
oh, here we go again with the Paul Ricard slander.
Not slander if it's true though.
Me and my co-presenter here slightly disagree. Joe Dauber has quite correctly called me out. And Joe, you're 100% correct. That is not how we say night owl around here.
Night
and
owl!
I do thank you. Oh, that was very good. Austin, I gotta say, I do love the chat when they keep us earnest. And Joe, very, very well reminded that that is not how it's been a while since we've done a night owl championship. And I had forgotten, but luckily in the nick of time, I have been reminded. Matthew Malcolm saying that they can't wait for some of the upcoming races. I love to hear that. We love having you on the grid. We love having all of you on the grids, of course. For that list of events and many more, racerci.com. Check out the calendar, race what you want to race, and don't worry about what you don't want to race. We have drop rounds for many of our championships, and you can join any championship mid-season, of course. Very flexible around here at racerci.com. Check out the calendar, join something you're interested in. We'd love to have you on the racetrack.
As always, and again, several splits as well for a lot of the championships that we do. So even if you're just starting out, whether or not you're a seasoned pro, it's there's always space for you in this community. So definitely worth the check out. And waiting for this gap between the races just get longer.
It's purgatory for us in the booth because we want to see what the weather is going to be like. We want to see what the teams decide to do with the next start of the race. It's purgatory for the teams because if they had a bad race, they want to immediately rectify it. As a driver, if you make a mistake, you want to go out and do a great job, and you want to completely erase that from your memory. If you had a really good race, you take a moment, you make some adjustments, and you hope that your adjustments are equal to or greater than everyone else's adjustments. And Austin, the big adjustment in this session, as we will start in a downpour and progress into a cloudy sort of situation later on in this race, the tire pressures were the big issue. Several drivers mentioning the tire pressures were the problem. Now that we're starting in the kind of the opposite sort of situation where it's raining and it's going to dry up later, and we know the rain won't come back. What do? Do you pump them up, or what's the play here?
Yeah, it's I don't know what to choose. I'm looking at the track radar, and I'm looking at the weather radar, and we know in 10 minutes, looking like it's going to just kind of ease off and just get cloudy, with light rain expected for the first 10 minutes. But Are we going to see a tire change? Are we going to see cars starting on the wet tire if what we can see is to be believed? The 505 looking like it's starting on the wet. Ted Edwards back there looking like they're starting on the wet. I can't quite see Badowski. I can't quite tell what tires they've got in there, but surely you do not start on the dry, not in these conditions, because for 10 minutes it's just going to be wet anyway. So, looking in the chat, Michael Redford set the PR. A fine line to be balanced here.
I think we lost you there for a second, Austin, but it's going to be interesting to see what they end up doing here. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. If you take dry tires now, you're going to absolutely hate it for a little while, but it may come good there at the end, and it all becomes a balancing act. Is the 32 or so seconds on and off a pit lane, are you going to lose that by running dry tires in the wet? I don't know. It'd be close. This is the point where you would love to have a race engineer in your ear doing the math, knowing exactly what the pit delta is. I think it's around 32 seconds or something around here. Might be a little bit less or it might be a little bit more with a tire change. Will you lose that amount of time? And if you went out in practice in the qualifying session where it was raining this amount versus the start of that session, you would have an idea. Remember that it was about a 4 or 5 second a lap difference on the tires or on the track from not really a dry track, but not a soaking wet one to a very wet one. So if you know that, how much time are you going to lose? It's still a gamble, though, considering you don't really have any frame of reference of how sketchy this is going to be if you decide to go out there on those dries.
Yeah, but in our ears, apparently everyone on the wet tire, which doesn't, I mean, to be fair, shouldn't be a surprise, Jesse, especially given that only a couple of cars went out on the dries in the last race and very quickly learned that that wasn't the right call. So, I mean, in a way, this might actually work out better as the track dries out towards the end of the race. A couple of drivers reporting pressure loss. As the track dries, the tyres get warmer and then actually will increase the pressure. It might actually help them a bit towards the end. But we might actually see a pit stop if things do get that dire. And in our ears, Lundqvist apparently on the dry tyres. So at least one car, that Lamborghini, taking that gamble.
Yeah, Lundqvist did that the last time around and it didn't work out, but maybe hoping for something better, a little bit of a Hail Mary play here for Lundqvist. We'll see exactly how it works out. Only the real one car on the dry tire. I suspect that nobody will come in to change onto the dry tire. I think the delta is going to be just way too high and you would just rather deal with it out there on the track, so you're pumped up the tires as much as you possibly can do. And when it gets dry, or when we suspect, because we don't know with the cloud cover how quickly the run-in line or the dry-or line or a drying line may take to form, it typically takes a lot longer under complete cloud cover, completely overcast here for race number 2. We just don't know. So everyone hedging, most people anyway, hedging the bets that the wet is the way to go, and they're likely going to take it to the end. Those doggies are going to be screaming, though.
Absolutely, and visibility from the call here.
What visibility?
You can't see anything as we go green from the perspective of the silver leader and leader of the championship. In fact, it picked the braking zone, running up to the back of the. I believe that's Redford. No, yeah, that is Redford.
Oh!
That's a Mustang. That's a Mustang sideways. I'm not sure who that was. Looked like Ted Edwards. I saw the red with the splash of yellow. But Ted Edwards sideways.
Oh, a huge calamity behind us.
Yes, looking at the track map, these yellow flags, and the number 8 still stood at the exit of Redgate, and having to reset back to pits. So it's the only car that was involved in having a huge calamity. Everyone else seems to kind of still be running with the pack, but what happened there?
I don't know. Something happened to Ted Edwards, and they all got sideways a little bit. There was a brief explosion of cars in the back. A couple have been affected. Let's take a look. Here's the helicopter camera. This is focused on the Ted Edwards' car, a couple of bumper maneuvers there, and yeah, everybody's just going to be able to kind of make their way through. That explains why there were so many cars off. They really weren't involved in the incident. They just sort of had to go off the racetrack, Austin, to get around the incident after the initial. And yeah, a couple of other cars ping-ponging in there. Yeah, that's exactly what's happening there. Everybody able to rejoin. That was a very scary start and more in line with what we expected to see in race number 1 in the conditions, but happened here in race number 2. There's always a calm race. There's always a chaotic one. That was certainly chaotic.
Yeah, but it wasn't the mass amounts of death, you know, that it could have been. It's we've definitely seen a lot worse. Daly getting a little bit out of shape there, with Redford behind. But yeah, actually quite lucky to not see more cars involved as severely as we were. But yeah, no, that's still, you know, still not great. And Redford sliding off at old hairpin there, getting a little bit all kinds of loose on the braking and just losing the back end. That will give Daly a little bit of breathing space. Yeah, Manso in P3, kind of taking Ted Edwards' place on the podium there. Obviously, Edwards did qualify, was it 4 overall, so Manso moving up, taking advantage of the situation, and Daly running in P4 just behind. So Pete Whipple also in a bit of their own fight. Foster chasing down Malcolm, and Jake Howling surviving the first lap this time around, but looking at a race replay.
Oh, dirt tracking it off the racetrack there. Gets it back on, but comes back into the line of the Mustang, and Howling gets sent for one, but excellent car control to not lose that car. It will continue on.
The best case scenario for them, really, but again, remember the last race they got taken out completely, or at least got involved in a bit of an accident, which did set them back. But this time around, able to hold some kind of position. So looking down the order, Nicole Fox in P5, definitely benefiting overall in terms of overall position from that early incident. Still leading Silver Class, needing to make up as many points as they can. But looking down the field, Texera running in P2 for the Silver Class, Varga P3, closely followed by Carlisle, and Ollie Mulder all the way down. I believe that's a P5 in the Silver Class.
This is exactly what Bruno needed. It's exactly what Nicole Fox needed after a disastrous race number 1. Fox got a piece of Edwards when they were spinning out in the driver's side door. If you live on a sensible place in the world where you drive on the left of the car, not the road, of course, Austin, you'll know the difference. But Nicole there trying to... my ear is wet. Nicole Fox did a good job of not losing that car, and of course we saw the sort of traffic jam that ended up behind them, and they were able to get through that. So as Teixeira to great effect, their P2, and that's exactly what both those cars needed after that race number 1. Same story up front though. Dauber and Reese fighting over it. Reese trying to keep pace with Joe. I don't know. Joe just seems so strong today. Don't know if anybody can be their equal. Jordan Daly continuing to try and work on Manso to get another podium on the day. You know, Jordan Daly racing with a broken hand as well, but you wouldn't know it.
Wait, I did not know this. I did not know this at all. This feels like something we should have said earlier, Jesse. That's kind of insane, actually.
Yeah, Jordan Daly has raced with a broken foot. He has raced with a bad back. He is now racing with a broken hand, and to add insult to injury, Austin, it's his dominant hand as well.
That sucks. That's again though, you wouldn't ever have thought. You know, obviously, you know, I'm so used to seeing Daly kind of fighting, you know, definitely on the spicy end of the podium rather than for 3rd and 4th. But at the same time, like, given the conditions, you would never have thought anything was actually wrong.
Yeah, that's the thing about Jordan. He just sort of gets on with it a lot of the time. He was sort of unsure about racing today. He said that he would have preferred today to have been a calm sort of situation and just to chill, of course, given the circumstances. And it's kind of lamenting that today is anything but he's still giving it a go. And he continues this. He'll be very happy that he did. You always talked about, you remember the races that you win that are surprising, that you don't expect to win. those are the ones you remember most. There's another bit of that as well. Days where you feel bad, maybe you're ill. I know a lot of race car drivers can attest to this. You feel bad, you get in the car, it makes you feel better, you do really well. You remember those more as well. Nico Kuzma trying to make their way through. That car significantly damaged the Tri-Wall Mustang. Damaged in the fender bender in Redgate on lap number 1. Several of these cars walking wounded here today. John Dalton just keeps going, and if you could see, you'd see the silver leader Nicole Fox up in front of them as they race for 5th place.
Oh, that's a big hit. That's Keith Whittle, and I believe Jake Howling as well. Howling waiting for Whittle to get going again. That's very sportsman-like. But yeah, that was a send from a long way back. I think NASA actually used certain special communications to actually communicate with celestial bodies that far out. But yeah, no, that was a long way back. In the back of Nicole Fox as well, it's Dalton trying to find and squeeze to find a way through. Actually, chasing down the podium in the last race, actually had a shot with it for it within the closing stages. This is very dangerous. It's coming through the S's. There's only one line through here. It's not suitable really for squeezing two cars in one, especially in the wet. But both drivers handling that really well. But that has put Nicole Fox in a little bit of danger from Badowski, who will outbrake them. It looks
oh no! The worst case scenario has happened. Badowski into Nicole Fox, into John Dalton, and it's calamity inside the top 5 in the Melbourne hairpin.
Take another look at this. What happens? Badowski dives to the inside, hits the brakes late, and tries to avoid. Looks like they're trying to avoid Dalton by driving straight across Nicole and collecting both cars in the process. And I think they realised their mistake just a little bit too late. Not to put blame on anyone for that collision from where we sat in the box. You know, that it's definitely more of a stewarding thing, but at the same time, it did look like they hit the brakes a little bit on the late side there.
Well, the big winner and feeling like they should probably go get a national lottery ticket is Richard Whittle, who went from 7th or 8th to 5th on the downfall of 3 of their competitors. Whittle just far enough back to see that occurring, drives right around it. Oh, and it's a big crash. It's another big one. It's Teixeira and Redford. Teixeira has assumed the lead of the silver class, only to be removed from the racetrack in a violent incident there.
I think they've been removed from this realm. If that was anything to go by, that was a big hit down at the old hairpin. But yeah, I mean, they've dropped down. Looking at the order again, Nicole Fox will take that lead back. Though it all depends on how damaged that McLaren is as well. I mean, McLaren's a very aero-sensitive car. If you start damaging the bodywork, you know, you will start losing time very quickly. I don't know how much that's going to show here in the wet, but as Dauber takes fast as that, followed by immediately by Reese, who's only 1.2 seconds behind, and fighting off Manzo, who's only a second behind him. I mean, at the top end of the field, very close, and in the top end of the Silver Championship, it seems like that lead position is cursed.
Well, it has been a lot this season. Remember, you flash back to some of the other races, whoever was in the lead had some sort of problem. A lot of flip-flopping of the silver lead. Nicole Fox has emerged the driver with the championship lead and a little bit of a points gap, but some of the races, it's not been that clear cut. There's been back and forth. Nicole Fox, who was taken out of the lead a lap ago in Melbourne hairpin, has now reassumed the lead by virtue of the leader being taken out. That was Bruno Teixeira's down in 16th place now, in 4th place off the podium. So right now, it's Nicole Fox, Varga, and Adam Carlisle, the top 3, with Mulder in 4th in the class. Teixeira's now 5th. And up front, the battle for the lead heating up a little bit. Dauber and Reese. Meanwhile, Raphael Huell trying to make a little hay here. They're going to overshoot the S's. That's going to allow Nicole Fox to get back close to them, but I think Nicole just let off right there. Doesn't want to get involved.
Yeah, they've gone through enough this race. And again, that's Badowski. Again, very late on the brakes. and almost running into the back of the pole once again, and definitely just the call at this point just trying to keep themselves out of trouble. You know, they just want to. This will finish this race. You know, in this position, they've got a good gap to Peter Varga, who's been promoted into P2. Carlisle promoted to P3 in silver class as well, with Texera being, as you said, removed from the racetrack, as you put it. They're currently down in P5 in their class. I mean, that's still P16 overall, so huge gaggle of cars to have to fight through to get back to any kind of like podium position. Mulder only 0.6 of a second off of Carlisle, but Dalton also making up some space too. 3/10 behind Shipston and trying to plan and make a move for the overtake.
Alexander Venevalda has joined us in the chat and has made a quite humorous statement as John Dalton having to wrestle that Porsche. Says that go bowling at the Glen. Oh wait, didn't realize Venevalda watched stock car racing, but that traditionally, Austin, is the name of the race that NASCAR does at Watkins Glen. It's sponsored by GoBowling.com, and the name of the race is Go Bowling at the Glen. And a rather inauspicious name, to be completely frank with you, but funny nonetheless. Not funny is the carnage that has occurred on the track in the last couple of laps. If race one was about as clean as you could ever wish for, barring a couple of cars running out of space, running out of grip, this race has been anything but. It has been full contact. This race has been an MMA fight.
Yeah, this is definitely the crazy race. This is, you know, the first one was maybe everyone just testing the water a little bit, but no longer testing the water. This is the people have just launched the torpedoes at this point, and Mike Redford was involved in a crash earlier with Texera, has found a way for it. He was managed to stay ahead of Texera. Actually, Texera was at P16 last time we called it out. They've actually taken that position back in the 95 Aston. Powered by the Not Sheep Racing, if the back of the car is to be believed. Matt Malcolm off the back of Ollie Mulder as well. So Mulder dropping off to Carlisle, going from 6/10 to a full second behind the fellow Aston in silver class, and Carlisle just 6/10 off of Peter Varga. So another chance of P2 in class, and this is Badowski and Dalton. Two cars collided earlier this race. Dalton actually made a small mistake, and now we're at the point in time again where Dalton, Nicole, and Badowski once again all in a line.
Just going to get back in line there. That's smart. And this is the mistake that led to that John Dalton off of the racetrack. I would imagine they had a slide coming out of Old Hairpin, and to save it, they just drove it straight through the grass. That's the best way to do it in a wet condition, and that's what allowed Marco Badowski to get beside them, and eventually the inside's going to prevail here, and they're going to lose this spot. And I think John, at some point, admitted defeat, knowing that going too wide through there is not going to be a good idea anyway. So Badowski up a spot, and John down just a couple of them, still inside the P10 in 10th currently. Fox up into 8th again, nowhere around the rest of their competitors. That's how Nicole likes it. And if race number one was a nightmare, this one started off like that, but has come back into their wheelhouse in the 314.
Yeah, again. Out, and but the wet tires is not being kind of punished a little bit more. Actually, it's right now, you know, the conditions are great for them, but right now the conditions for them are great, but it's quickly going to dry out, and those tires are going to start heating up.
Yep, it certainly will do. And of course, the rain has long since stopped. Half the race left to go, and the track is still completely saturated. We talked about the difference between the track being in direct sunlight versus no real direct light. That's what this is. It's completely overcast. That will make the track dry infinitely slower. I did a race a few years ago at Suzuka in the mid-afternoon where it poured rain for all of maybe 30 to 40 minutes or so. So we're going to see an overtake here potentially. And pretty much easy, done and dusted. Change the position before you get there. Don't overdrive it. Oh, nearly lost it there on exit, but somehow is able to gather it back up, and they keep the position. But 40 or so minutes of rain, and then the rest of the afternoon in overcast conditions at Suzuka that day, the track never dried up. It got drier, but it never actually dried up. It was around midnight, it was a 24-hour race, before that track was actually dry. And that just shows you the difference. We saw the last race, the sun came out, and within about 10 to 15 minutes, there was a dry-ish line on the racetrack. It's been about that amount of time now. It's not happening, and it probably will not happen. The wet tire, pump it all the way up, the air pressure through the roof, probably the right decision here. I would imagine the cars are a little bit happier this race than they were a race ago.
Yeah, and the wet tire is more resilient than you think it is. It can act as kind of like an intermediate if it needs to. Obviously, there is no intermediate tire specifically in this sim, but the wet tire does kind of fill that gap just as much, and it gives you a little bit of leeway so you have some time to switch the dryers if the situation ever arose for it. Carlisle knocked off the top spot, the bottom spot of the podium, as we saw that move down into the S's and almost getting themselves tangled again. This is Badowski making a move on Raphael Huel. A bit of a race replay here, and again coming down into the Melbourne Loop. Badowski keeping themselves clean, but a little bit of argy-bargy going on between Nicole and between Shipston, Nicole, and Raphael, and cars settling into a bit of an order. Shipston getting around Nicole at that point, which again means that Fox, Badowski, Dalton once again in a line together as we enter the 12th minute, enter the 12 minutes remaining point of this race.
Still nothing between the top two, by the way. Dauber and Reese just sort of pacing each other in this. I think Ben Reese in the 505 Aston has found a little something that they are now able to keep up with Joe Dauber out in front, so nothing separating those two. Looked like right there that John Dalton able to make a pass there on Nicole Fox, get some of those positions back that they would have lost during their off-track excursion. You know, Porsche does make a rally car, but this one isn't it. Oh, look at here.
Oh, that's a move for the lead. That's Ben Reese actually finding a way around just temporarily, but goes to show they are close enough to make a move. Let's look at that again. We're down towards the Melbourne Loop. Again, we've seen cars get this
I smell sand.
So wrong, but
yep.
Actually looked fairly not like it was meant to be a send. Stewie Arias noting that Reese actually touched the outside curb there, which does affect the braking somewhat, and the contact made between the two cars looked fairly innocuous, but again, I'll have to see how that goes over time. But sure, Reese, definitely in a position where they could make a move for this race.
Austin, I got to ask you a question. Race number one, the majority, I would argue, the drivers, they'd be mad at themselves. They're mad at the conditions, right? Race number two is the opposite. These drivers are probably going to be upset at each other. There's going to be a lot of questions that need to be answered after this one, I would say, based on the conduct in race number two. What kind of driver are you? If somebody does you wrong on the racetrack, do you let them know about it, or are you willing just to let that kind of stuff go? Bygones be bygones, it's racing, and you go on to next week. I'm curious, do you talk back, or do you just keep it to yourself?
I think it depends on the severity. If I'm having a really good race and something kind of takes me out, then then obviously one way or another, I'm gonna be upset about it. But if it's just kind of just like that, a little bit of a door bang, it happens. Peter Lundqvist pulling the car up, and I'm not sure if that's sign of them giving up, or I know they started the race on the dry tire. And we noted that maybe wasn't the best decision, but not sure though. Didn't look like any other reason for that car to pull off to the side. Answering your question, Jesse, ultimately it really does just depend on the severity of things and how much I've lost in that position. If it's just a slight knock, then if it's just a slight knock, then it happens. Racing's racing.
Well, I gotta say, the sun's actually come out, I've just realized, as we go through Redgate there, and that will help the track. That is going to hurt the teams, because if they have pumped up the tires now, which I would imagine they would have done, there's no reason to have not done, that could create a problem. Jake Howling around
That's
in the
it, got
final
it.
turn. Yes,
Was it on
indeed.
their own accord, or was this Byford involved as well?
Oh my goodness.
Takes to the inside and two wheels on the grass and sends them around, and bit of a lazy spin there from Howling. But again, good accident avoidance. It's you need to have that, in those situations. Sometimes you do hit the brakes a little bit late, so having that accident avoidance is definitely a good thing to have.
Yeah, I think if you're Trevor Byford there, you're like, oh, I'm going to get collected here, and then they Howling collects themselves. You're like, oh, okay, I'll take that. It's one of those situations. So you see that in racing a lot, where a car will make a mistake, and then you're the first car to miss it, and you're like, oh man, hashtag blessed, right? On that one, I was able to survive. I didn't have to do anything. That was what Trevor Byford did. He just had to stick to his line. The accident cleared themselves up, and that's going to be more and more common. What happened to Howling there, as this track continues to dry a little bit, you're going to have drivers that are going to get more confident with the grip that they're receiving. They're going to go off that line, they're going to go onto the curbs, and all of a sudden the grip's going to be gone again. They're going to go long. That could create more chaos, considering how many of these cars are still neck and neck. Dauber has a little bit of breathing room now over Reese, 1.6 seconds, about as big of a gap as it's been all race long here today. Zhao Manso comfortable in third place. Jordan Daly, Richard Whittle, your top five. Credit to Richard Whittle. It's going to be a good top 5 day if they can hold on to this. They were one of the cars that was in front or just outside of the early incident. They benefited greatly from that. Of course, they also benefited from the Melbourne incident that cleared a few cars out of the way. But to their credit, in that 157 Whittles Wizards Ford, they've maintained that gap in that position since they've gained it.
Yeah, that was in the early carnage, wasn't it? That was in the lap one with Ted Edwards. But yeah, no, they've done a great job kind of holding that off, and Raphael Gill right behind as well. I say right behind. The gap's 5.9 seconds. So that's huge. And
oh my goodness!
That's Carlisle and Redford. That's the two of the M-Class Astons.
That was a grinding, sliding crash. Let's see.
Contact on the exit of Coppice, but Redford on the inside, and Carlisle comes across. Makes Redford go a little bit unstable, and then hits Carlisle a second time, sending them around. And they were on the podium, Jesse. They were on third on the podium before they were overtaken by Mulder, and now sent further down the field. Joe Dauber still leading this race, pulling a gap on Ben Reese as this track is drying out. So Reese looks like the dry actually nerfing them slightly. It seems like they thrive in the wet conditions, and but still huge gap to Manzo behind with 4.6 seconds, but only 1.3 between Manzo and Daly. So could be on with a fight for P3.
I'm curious what happened there between Redford and I believe that was Carlisle. They had an incident with. I don't understand. Was Carlisle the one coming over, or maybe did Redford come off of the apex? Either way, they definitely come together and slide for quite a distance there. Again, 2 more drivers that will be asking questions after the race for sure. There's going to be a lot of these teams that are going to want to forget this weekend entirely and just move on to the finale in 1 week's time. 2 races to decide a couple of champions in the final podium spots. And while Joe Dauber has done a good job, and while Nicole Fox has rebounded here in race number 2, it is not over here in the championship. There is still 2 races left to go next week, and anything can happen. And if there's one thing the series has taught us, Austin, if it can, it will.
Yeah, it's been so unpredictable. We've had 2 or 3 championship leaders throughout this season, and again, drivers threatening the silver championship as well. I mean, with a huge fight between Nicole and Ollie. So, and again, it's still not over. Even after this round is said and done, there's still a final round left, and nothing's set in stone right now, though.
Nope. Couple of more minutes left in today's race, though. Everybody hoping to just have a nice and calm finish to the day. Shipston and Badowski quite close to one another, potentially. Dalton also joining in there. Remember, John had that huge slide trying to recover some of those spots. Were very potent in race number 1, looking like they were going to have a repeat here. Have had a setback and now find themselves with an opportunity to maybe finish as high as 7th place. Some squabbling in the silver field. Varga and Teixeira as well, fighting over the minor positions. Fox, Mulder, and Varga, the top 3 currently. Teixeira trying to at least get a podium out of the day, a day that saw him lead ever so briefly in the category after being sent off themselves. Frustrating day. How do you deal with it, Austin? You have a frustrating day out there on the racetrack. Do you walk away and not think about it for a while? Do you immediately start practicing for the next race? How do you deal and cope with a bad round?
Just try and move on. just walk away from the computer and stay off it for the most of the night. I am dramatic. I am dramatic when I'm upset. So usually it involves a good amount of complaining, a little bit of crying, maybe order a pizza. You know, the typical things you do when you're heartbroken. Just go for a tub of ice cream, you know.
I often fly the complain whenever I'm upset about something that happens on the racetrack. I will moan about it until I feel like I've gotten my 10p worth, and then you just sort of move on. And I think a lot of drivers are like that. You moan, you complain, whether it was falling on deaf ears, that's not the point. The point is you've got it out of your system, and you move on. Obviously, there's a line. You don't take it too far. No need for name calling, right? We're all adults. So
no name calling. Just go to your friends, complain for the foreseeable future, and never let go of a grudge, you know.
Well, I didn't say anything about that, Austin. I remember the car numbers and the schemes people run when they do me wrong on the racetrack.
I remember the exact day, time, stream, timestamp, everything. There's no escaping that wrath, you know. And I've just learned not to upset you out on the racetrack as well, Jesse.
Well, if this was oval racing, we have a little less strict rules about that kind of thing, and a lot of times we register our displeasure out there on the racetrack. Now, you don't do that in GT racing. That's a foul. You wouldn't want to do that. That's not very sporting. But in oval racing, somebody cuts you off, does you wrong, give them a little door bang, let them know. I don't appreciate that, man, and then you just sort of move on.
I've seen NASCAR races get even more awry than that. So yeah, but that's that goes. I mean, that's the same in every form of racing, though, right? For everything from karting to NASCAR, tensions can run high. Even sim racing, you know, it's definitely not unheard of. But as long as Angus channeled it the correct ways, that is.
Oh, look at this.
That's what you want to see. But Daly.
Has Zhao made a mistake?
Maybe could also be struggling as this track's drying out. Daly actually holds fastest lap so far, and we're holding the fastest lap as the track was drying. So conditions favouring Daly right now, but only really one more lap to make a move. Very late on the brakes there, narrowly avoiding Manso, but will have the better exit potentially coming out of this final corner. And now the final lap for Daly to make a move for third place of this race.
No, you're right. Zhao's not really made a mistake. It's just Jordan Daly who has the speed juice fastest lap of the race for Race Ventura and that 197 Mustang. They're just better at this particular point in the race. John Dalton's done it, by the way. He's gone to P7. He's got by Badowski. He's got by Tom Shipston, and this is how he's done it.
Take a look at this.
Oh, it's a huge one. Oh, it's a big send.
That's mega. That was
oh my God!
So far back.
Tom Shipston got halfway through Goddard's and immediately realized that there was the disturbance in the force, and he didn't want any part of John Dalton. Dalton sent it in there, and Shipston avoided contact. That's well done by Tom Shipston, in my opinion.
Dalton just dropped out of low Earth orbit. That's crazy.
You could land a space shuttle with that sort of trajectory. That was incredible. He just went in, like Shipston really made that work. I gotta say, if Tom doesn't drive the way he does into Goddard's there, and here it is, coming to get the checkered flag up in front. Joe Dauber is going to win the race over Reese, but the fight for third is on. Daly makes the move into the Melbourne hairpin, but here comes Manso back. I think Daly let him go, as Daly did not like it. Oh, but he's overrun the corner. Shao Manso's overrun Goddard's in the Race Ventura car. It's going to be a double podium for a man with a broken hand. He comes early, he comes often, and he's got another one.
No, I thought for certain the second that he lifted to let the second he lifted to let Mansour back through, I thought that was it for certain. I thought Daly was kind of resigned to P4, but the world works in mysterious ways, and that just goes to show. Mike Redford still chasing down Foster, going through Goddard for the final time, hits the brakes light, goes wide over the crest, towards Goddard's. But will come across the line in P16 overall. Dauber will take the win here. And once again, for race 2 of this Wednesday sprint format, Ben Rees coming in P2. John Daly coming in P3 with all for P4. Raphael Kuhl P5. Dalton P6. Shipston P7. Badowski P8. Nicole Fox winning the silver class for this race, but coming in P9 overall. And rounding up the top 10 is Nico Kwisma.
Certainly is. What a great race that ended up being there at the end for a couple of spots. Fox over Mulder and Varga, your top 3 in the silver class. Joe Dauber, a absolute perfect race weekend, you'd have to say. They got the pole position and they kept the lead for the majority of the day, except that one time Ben Rees took a shot down into the Melbourne hairpin. We're joined by Joe Dauber here in the booth. Joe, there's going to be a lot of drivers asking questions about the driving standards of others, though today, for you, everything looked a little bit different, I would suspect.
That sounds like a stream I should watch back, I think, then. I didn't see very much action at all, unfortunately. Or fortunately, for me. Yeah, other than the dive bomb from Reese, but yeah, you can't blame him. I was obviously a bit early on the brakes. I think he was giving me a bit of a reminder I needed to up the pace a little bit.
It looked pretty amazing, your day. You didn't matter if it was wet weather going into dry or dry weather going into race. You looked like you were in command throughout the entire day. So what was the strategy for you and your car today that set you apart from everybody else?
I have to give a shout out to Go Setups. I was using the Go setup for the 296, but I think the 296 is very, very good in wet weather. So it worked very well. Obviously, I made a bit of a mistake constantly. So in the second race, I only got 30 psi on the last 2 laps, but the car seemed to drive fine with the lower pressures anyway. So I shouldn't complain. It was, I think OP car helps a little bit on that one.
Well, Joe, I'm going to turn you over to my partner, Austin Devonshire.
I mean, first of all, congratulations on the double win. We mentioned in qualifying on the stream that it's quite a hard track to overtake on. So the question I've got for you, really, it's just the one that Jesse hasn't asked yet, is do you think this is a race that was won in qualifying?
100%. And I had a feeling when I saw how the level of rain when I joined the server, and also when I joined qualifying, and how wet the track looked, that it was going to be 1 lap and that was it. So I actually stayed a little bit longer in the pits so I could increase the pressures. So on the first lap it would be pretty much optimum. So I think that was, I don't know if it was lucky or good strat, but I think that paved the way for a couple of wins today.
It definitely seemed to work out one way or another. Do you have anyone at home you'd like to shout out?
Yep. I have to give a shout out to my daughter Zoe, 9 years old today. So this one's for her.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Let's go. Happy birthday, Zoe. Your dad's a double winner today and dedicated it to you. Joe, final question. You're in control of this championship. 2 races left to go next weekend. Can you taste and feel that trophy already?
It would be nice. Where is the next race? Races? You don't know, do you?
You're supposed to know that. Let's see. We're going to Valencia next week.
Okay. I think the Ferrari's pretty good at Valencia. So I don't know. As long as I can keep it clean, keep away from Daly, and I'll be fine.
There you have it. Joe Dauber winning on their daughter's birthday. What a better way to go out. A crazy race. A most deserving winner. Joe Dauber wins twice here today at Donnie. Congrats.
Thank you.
Joe Dauber to some of the other field that we had in today's race. Oh dear, where do we start? We'll go with Ollie Mulder first. Ollie, tell us about your day.
Blind.
Blind, yeah, we saw that a bit.
Yeah, no, couldn't see a thing for the entirety of either of the races. Just pedal to the metal, you know, hoping I don't hit the guy in front.
Well, today was one of the races that I think a lot of drivers, they sort of fear, right? Because you don't know what's going to happen in the mixed conditions. How easy was it for you to make your tire choices today?
Pretty easy. The track was fairly cool, sitting around 18, 19, so it was pretty much going to remain either wet or damp for the majority of the race, so wets were the obvious choice to go for.
There you go. Do you have any other thing about your day that you'd like to mention or bring up? Maybe something that you don't think we saw or we couldn't have known about how your day went?
But I made a few aggressive overtakes in the second race. Sort of had to get my elbows out. Qualifying was just a complete mess. I got one lap and I screwed it up. So I think had I not screwed up my first quality lap, I probably could have been fighting up there a bit more to run with my pole in the second race. But no, it was good.
That's interesting to hear. I'm going to turn you over to Austin.
Yeah, obviously a little bit of a tough race, especially in that, I think for both races today. But how are you feeling about the championship going into the final round into Valencia next week?
I think this has certainly helped me to close up the gap, but I think it's already set. I think Nicole's got it.
So it seems pretty close when looking at the championship points, but I'm done the maths in my head. In fact, Jesse can attest I'm terrible at maths anyway. So, but yeah, no, it definitely looked tough. It definitely looked tough out there today. Some great moves though. Definitely some great moves that we saw from where we were sat in the box. Do you have anyone at home that you want to shout out? No worries. Jesse, do you want to lead into the next one?
Yeah, thank you. Ollie Mulder has a shot, by the way. Ollie, you have a shot to win the championship next week. Don't give up. Never say never. All right, we'll see you next week.
I'll fight like hell to the checkered flag.
Let's go! That's what I wanted to hear. Ollie Mulder, folks. P2 in the champ has a shot to win it next week. Good luck. From Ollie Mulder to Peter Varga. Peter Varga had a up and down day today. Peter, if you had to describe your races in one word, what would that word be? Don't curse.
What am I supposed to say?
That's fair enough. That is fair enough. Rough race out there today, yeah?
Yeah, it was kind of boring from my side, I have to say.
Was it?
Yeah, look, I don't know where you found the downs, because I was always just like in the up middle all the time today. Considering my practice was not much because of the Worlds Tour 24 hours, so I focused more on that. And then I decided to postpone my practice until today and decided to watch the Le Mans qualifying instead. So that was that. So I just come in, find wet weather, like, okay, this is what it is. And in qualifying, I just couldn't, I would say lucky that I still managed to set a reasonable lap time when the track was good, because like after 3-4 minutes the rain got too heavy, so nobody could improve. I don't know if you guys noticed, but that kind of made the quality interesting at the start. And in race 2, in race 1, some people gambled on dry tires, and I was thinking, like, do I do the same? But we agreed with Marco that wets are the way to go. Also considering how the track did not really dry up in practice, it took the track a long time to clear the water. So we just went for wets, and after the first few laps, I basically was driving by myself. Got to the cars ahead, got to the cars behind, Well, I once got a sniff at and like I am at a chicken at the end of the race, but I still don't have the pace to do that. So that was that. And in race one, I sort of outbraked myself into turn one because I could not see shit through the spray. Like, like I have to say, Kunos did a very good job with the spray because oh my god, you could not see the car ahead of you. So I was just trying to be gentle, but still kind of outbrake myself with the trail braking into the one. I luckily did not hit anyone, but some guys had decided to hit each other. So that happened, and it was just driving mostly. I had a target today to not lose points to Teixeira and other cars behind me and howling. So I successfully did that with 2 podiums. I'm happy.
That's great to hear. Over to you, Austin.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've asked all the questions I could have thought of myself there, Jesse. Yeah. uh, I, yeah, I mean, congratulations. Looked like it was definitely tough out there, but again, yeah, Jesse's stolen all of my questions, so thank you.
Anyone you want to shout out, Peter, while you're here?
Today to Marco. Helped a little bit with the tire choices and everything, so not fuck up that myself.
There you have it. Peter Varga, third place in the Silver Championship. They mathematically can still win the championship, but Nicole Fox would have to not show up, I'm pretty sure. Actually, after this week, it may not be mathematically possible, but they are still in the championship and in podium position. Good luck, Peter, in the final race.
Thank you.
And last but certainly not least, Mike Redford has joined us for his perspective on the race. Mike, we rode on board with you a little bit today. A lot of drivers complaining about visibility being a problem, and boy, were you in the middle of that.
Yeah, that's one of my excuses for tapping Sarah. I just the understeered wide, my braking line about that. I didn't realise at the time that just taken. I apologise to him for that. And yeah, I just fell back, got stuck with lowered cars. But the visibility is so bad. Can't really. It's very difficult at this track to make up places, especially in these conditions. Race one was fun, like that.
Race one was
definitely messed up on. I think it might have been Badowski on the inside after the old hairpin. I just judged the line, pink on the grass. No man.
Race one was very fun to watch. Race two was incredibly chaotic. Austin and I talked about towards the end of race number two, how mad does a driver get, Mike, with all the traffic, the horrible conditions? There's a lot of fender contact, we'll put it lightly, right, in a race like today.
Yeah.
Is it something a driver like you dwells on, or do you say your sorries and do you move on to the next?
I dwell on it more than I should. I'll be honest. That's mainly my criticism, I guess. I don't know. It's hard to. Every incident's a bit different. I definitely had one incident this week where definitely my fault, and one where I was at fault. So, yeah. It's difficult, and obviously a difficult condition. Trying to go, you've got to overspeed on the cars around you. Trying to do it safely, but there's only a kind of tolerant. Can't fit 2 cars around each corner of the track. Fortunately.
Then over to you.
No, once again, Jesse, I think you just asked everything I would have asked anyway. Looked like it was definitely tough out there. A few small incidents, but they're obviously not helped by the conditions. But just kind of Jesse stealing all of my questions. So, Mike, do you have anyone you want to shout out at home?
I'll just say shout out to the NS Racing guys around for us for the World Tour. And because that was a miserable affair. I don't know if you're aware of how many issues we had. Again, it wasn't a 24-hour race. Didn't really make. But yeah, disappointed with this week. I could have been. I think I mentioned it earlier. Then would have been in 4th if I didn't mess up the corner in quali. And yeah, just felt like I was hoping for a nice easy top 10 finish, but yeah, my luck has not been great for the Aston.
Always next week as well, and you know, you
I
said
won't be here for that, unfortunately.
Oh no! Oh no!
I am on holiday, so.
Well, the best thing I could say to take away from this, was to say anything, would be, you know, it's a small mistake that cost you P4. You know then that you've got the pace to do that. So take that momentum, run with it, and again, just take it forward for next.
Always next time, isn't it?
There is always next time.
Mike Redford from the Pro class. Good luck. Have a safe vacation. We hope to see you back rested and ready to go for more. Mike Redford from the Pro field today, bringing us some of the most dramatic images from today's race. Mike, thanks for coming to talk to us.
I don't do it on purpose, that's why.
Oh my goodness. When we say couldn't see anything, we mean that. There was, I think at some point, Nicole Fox was immediately in front of Mike Redford. Could not see them at all. Such was the conditions at certain points today. Austin, it was a crazy day. We had our typical calm and then chaotic race, and the conditions definitely didn't help. Some deserving winners in both categories here today. Joe Dauber continuing their great pace on sort of line to win the championship after all that. Jordan Daly double podium with a broken hand. Nicole Fox's incredible rebound, race 1 versus race number 2. Some high drama in that second race as well. Some pieces of car and carbon fiber to be picked up. All in all, an exciting and enthralling day of racing.
Yeah, it's had a little bit of everything, hasn't it? Again, I say that every week, but it just goes to show just how good the racing is here at RCI. When you start changing the conditions around and start mixing things up, it just gets even more interesting and chaotic, especially in 30-minute format. So, I mean, there's not really too much to have at the final takeaway here at Donington. A double race win for Dauber, a double podium for Daly as well. A good chance to recover, a good haul of points. But I mean, Jesse, from your perspective, any closing thoughts? Oh, Jesse disappearing out of the box there for just a moment. But I think with that kind of concludes the penultimate round here at Donington Park for round 5 of the Wednesday GT3 Sprint Championship. So we'll see you next week at Valencia for the final round of the championship. Thank you so much for joining us, and yeah, well, we'll see you next week.